Should you traditionally publish your book or self-publish your book? It's the first question that every author has to answer. And in this video, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of each. This video is brought to you by my book, 150 Self-Publishing Questions Answered, the book for writers wanting to know the A to Z of writing, publishing, and book marketing. It'll give you clarity, confidence, and teach you how to turn your imagination into income. Level up your author business today by visiting authorlevelup.com/150. The book is available in ebook, paperback, and audio, narrated by me. That's authorlevelup.com/150. What's up, guys? Michael Aran here with Author Level Up, helping you master the craft of writing. And if you're new here, consider subscribing and click that little bell, ding, 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 to get notifications every time I have a new writing video. And in this video, we're talking about traditional publishing versus self-publishing. But I have to give you a disclaimer. I am a self-published writer, and you can obviously know where my sympathies lie. But this video is based on my own personal publishing experience of writing over 50 books, as well as going to law school. So I have a bit of a unique perspective on this. And second thing I want to talk about is just real quick. When we talk about traditional publishing in this video, I'm actually talking about two different routes. The first route is publishing with one of the big 5 publishers, which are Macmillan, HarperCollins, Penguin Random House, Hachette, or Simon & Schuster. Or I'm also talking about publishing with a small press, which could be a smaller publisher that has a certain appetite for the types of titles that they want to publish, and maybe they only publish a few titles each year. When I talk about traditional publishing, I'm talking about both of those in this video. Now first, let's talk about creative freedom and flexibility, because this I think is the most important thing. With traditional publishing, you don't have very much creative freedom and flexibility. It's based on sending your book to an agent. If the agent likes it, they pass it on to a publisher. And then if the publisher likes it, they will certainly buy the rights to your book. But if the publisher wants to change something in your manuscript, they have the final say on it. You often don't have the final say. You often also don't have the final say on covers, the final say on editing, any of that stuff. That is probably the biggest con of traditional publishing, in my opinion. Because traditional publishers are looking for certain types of books that fit a certain type of mold. If your book fits the mold that they're looking for, awesome. If it doesn't, you're either going to be rejected outright, or you're going to be asked to change significant parts of your manuscript to suit the publisher's preference. Depending on your personality type, you may or may not be okay with that. Next, the speed to market is also important. It takes traditional publishers 2 to 3 years at a minimum, maybe more, to get your book to market. So from the time that your book gets accepted to the time that it gets published, it could take a very, very long time. You may not even remember what's in the book by that point. The next thing is that there are a lot of people who touch your book through the traditional publishing process. And it's almost like editing or writing by committee. So some people see this as a pro, other people see it as a con. The pro people, they say, well, there's a lot of people that have seen the book by the time it gets published, and if it can get through all of those gates, then it must be validated, or it's got something special, right? Some people truly believe that. Other people, the con people, say, well, it's a lot of gatekeepers, and it's more people putting their opinion into my book and changing it to make it to where it sells or doesn't sell, and you don't really know until it gets published. With self-publishing, this is, I think, the major pro of self-publishing, which is you have creative freedom and flexibility. You can write whatever you want, whenever you want, publish that book whenever you want, and no one's going to stop you. No one will come to your house and shoot you because of what you read or what you write. It just doesn't work that way. And that is a major pro. But the con of that is that everything is all up to you. Everything is your decision. If you decide to write a book that doesn't fit the mold of what the market wants, the market could decide that it doesn't want to buy your book. So you've got the creative flexibility, but you also have an immense responsibility with that as well. And that may not be for everyone. My personal opinion is that self-publishing is probably better if you're a control freak. Next, let's talk about distribution, because this is an important one. When you think about traditional publishing, they have a bigger distribution network than a self-publisher. There's no doubt about that. When you think about all the different places that a traditional publisher can get a book into, bookstores, libraries, other outlets like Walmart and Costco, online retailers, they can get your book anywhere in the world if they want to. Now, if they want to is the key word, because if you think about it, traditional publishers publish a lot of books every year. Not all of those books end up in bookstores. And the books that do end up in bookstores, only a certain percentage of them actually get any kind of display coverage. So when you walk into a bookstore and there's a table and there's a bunch of books and you can see the actual cover of the book and they're displayed in a really nice manner. Well, not every book in the bookstore gets that sort of coverage. And the booksellers are only going to do that for books that they know are going to sell. So one, in order to even get into a bookstore, if you're traditionally published, the bookseller has to order it and the clientele have to want it and they have to buy it. Otherwise, there's no point. There's no economic incentive for the publisher to get your book into a bookstore, even if they publish you. So that's something that I wanted to make sure I hit, because a lot of people don't really understand the economics of bookstores. Also, it's easier for a traditional publisher to get your book into other formats. So when you think about things like trade paperbacks or mass market paperbacks or hardcovers or audiobooks or large print editions or specialized editions, it's really easy for traditional publishers to do that at the drop of a hat if they feel it's necessary for your book. But remember, they are a business and they are only going to take a risk on you and do things if they think that they can make money. But even then, it's a gamble and they don't always make money. Now, with self-publishing, yes, self-publishers are at a disadvantage in this area. You can't really argue it. But if you understand the economics and you understand how things work, it actually is possible for you to get your self-published book into bookstores and libraries. You just have to know how to do it. But the major con is that it does require you taking the time to learn how that works, and it does require a little bit of expense out of your own pocket. And also with self-publishing, it is possible to get your book into a variety of formats, but most self-publishers these days are making most of their money from ebook, paperback, and to a lesser extent, audio. All right, let's talk about income. Traditional publishing, the nice thing about it is that you don't have to pay any money out of your pocket. Let me repeat that. You don't have to pay any money out of your pocket to get your book published with a traditional publisher. If they ask you to pay money out of your pocket, it's probably a scam. So no upfront cost with traditional publishing. You get an advance, which it could be any amount of money, and you get that money, but then you don't make any more money with traditional publishing until you earn out your advance. So if you get an advance of $1,000, the publisher has to make $1,000 on the book back before you make any money in royalties. All right, that's pretty simple. But the con is, while there is no upfront cost, you're going to make a lower percentage of royalty. So you're not going to take home nearly as much because the publisher has taken on the lion's share of the risk, so therefore they're going to take the majority of the revenue from the book. Also, with traditional publishing, you may get paid quarterly or once or twice a year. Hey, don't shoot me, I'm just the messenger. With self-publishing, yes, you have higher upfront costs because you have to front the cost of the book. So in many respects, you are the publisher. You have to pay for the cover design, you have to pay for the editing, you have to pay for all the other things that need to be done, and it can be very expensive. And I've even done a video on the cost of self-publishing, so you can check that by clicking the YouTube card above my head or the link in the video description. So there's no doubt about it that self-publishing can be very expensive, but per sale, you take home more money. At most places, you make anywhere from 60 to 70% royalties. Now let's talk about quality of product, because this is another area where people frequently have a debate. Traditional publishers, because this is what they do, they have access to more tools and have access to higher expertise, and they can create very, very high quality products. You really can't dispute it. The books just look amazing. You never see bad looking traditionally published books in terms of hardcovers or bindings or anything like that. They've got this down to a science. But that's not to say that self-published writers can't make books that look indistinguishable from traditionally published books. There are fewer options available with like print on demand, for example. You can't do certain things that traditional publishers can do on their books. But if you take the time to learn how to format, you take the time to learn what a good book cover looks like, you can make a book that looks virtually indistinguishable from something that a traditional publisher can make. Again, it boils down to, are you willing to take the time to learn and willing to spend the money on the right people to help you with that? Oh, and time out. Time out. Did you know that there is a nonprofit organization for self-published writers whose goal is to help self-published writers achieve ethics and excellence in everything that they do? It's called the Alliance of Independent Authors, and they publish a lot of really great information for free. In fact, I serve as their outreach manager, and I even wrote a book for them called 150 Self-Publishing Questions Answered. So I'll drop a link to Ally so you can check them out and all the great things that they do if self-publishing interests you. Now, let's also talk about marketing, because marketing costs money, and it's not economically feasible for a traditional publisher to put all their marketing dollars behind every single book, right? I mean, if you think about all the books that they publish, if they have a mega bestseller, the mega bestseller is going to get the majority of the marketing dollars. A newbie author, not so much. And so you also have to remember that they may not put a whole lot of marketing dollars behind your book. So if you're going to sign the rights and give them your book and they're not going to market it, then why are you giving them your book? But if they do choose to use their marketing dollars and put their effort behind your book, there's no doubt that it could do very well. Another thing to remember is that your book has a shelf life. Traditional publishers publish a lot of books, and if your book goes out in August, they've got another book in September ready to go. And your book's going to become a distant memory at some point to them. And let's not forget that traditional publishers expect authors to do a lot of the marketing. So even if you have a publisher behind you and backing you, you're still going to be expected to do a lot of the marketing. Now, with self-publishing, you have to do all the marketing yourself, but if you're going to self-publish a book and you've got to do all the marketing, and you're going to traditionally publish the book and you've got to do all the marketing, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why not just self-publish? All right, let's talk about the legal aspect of both routes. This is something that I've not seen anybody talk about on YouTube, and I don't really understand why. So I went to law school. So I have a deeper understanding of contracts and intellectual property. I took copyright law in law school and passed it. So I hope that indicates that I know what I'm talking about here. And so, traditional publishers have gotten a pass for years. Nobody ever thinks about the contracts that they make you sign. They make you sign devilish contracts. I mean, traditional publishers have more attorneys than you've ever met in your entire life. And their contracts are ironclad. They are brutal, and they can destroy your career if you don't know what you're doing. And the reality is that most writers just sign their lives away, not realizing what the contractual obligations are. You cannot negotiate most terms in your publishing contract, at least the ones that matter. So you really have to understand how they work. Now, this is the part where most people are probably going to click away. You're going to go look at some other video. But if you watch this, I hope that somebody will hear my message today. Okay, let's talk about a few of these contract clauses. First off, let's talk about do not compete clauses. This is in a lot of traditional publishing contracts. A do not compete clause restricts what you can publish. So if you want to publish, say you want to self-publish a book, well, you may not be able to do that because the do not compete clause says that you cannot publish any books that will compete with the publisher. This can hamstring your career if you sign this. The grant of right clause outlines what the publisher is taking. So are they taking ebook rights? Are they taking English rights? What are they taking? Sometimes these grant of rights clauses can be so broad that they take every right from you without compensating you for it or doing anything with it. So why would you give audiobook rights to a traditional publisher if they don't make an audiobook edition of your book? It's crazy, right? Yeah, but authors sign these types of contracts all the time. And then we also have reversion of rights clauses. What happens if you have a disagreement with your publisher? What happens if the publisher decides to stop marketing the book even though you want them to continue marketing it? What happens if the publisher never publishes your book to begin with? Or what happens if the publisher goes out of business or gets acquired by some big conglomerate? What do you do? Right? See, most people don't think past just signing the contract, but you have to think about these things. How easy is it for you to get the rights to your book back so that you could self-publish or sell to another publisher if you wanted to do that? These are all things that you have to think about, and these are things that are in the traditional publishing contract, snakes in the grass that are lurking, so to speak, that are almost always going to put you at a disadvantage. But, no one's going to listen to me, so what am I going to do? But also, you also have to know that if you sign a bad contract, you got to wait 35 years before you can get the rights to your book back. 35 years is a long, long time. Oh, and if you have a dispute with your publisher, some people think, oh, well, I'll just hire an attorney if I have a problem. Do you have about $100,000 laying around? Because if you don't have $100,000 laying around, you're probably not going to be able to mount any type of battle against your publisher, because that's what it costs to try intellectual property lawsuits at a minimum. And on top of that, you're probably not even going to be able to get to court because the contract that you signed is going to be so ironclad that you're really not going to have any type of recourse to do anything at all. So therefore, if you come across some sort of situation, you're going to be stuck, and the publisher is going to have the rights to your book, and they're going to be able to do whatever they want. Or in some cases, nothing. With self-publishing, you don't really have this problem, right? I mean, the worst thing you can do is run afoul of a retailer's terms of service. So like if you do something scammy on Amazon, Amazon can put down the hammer and end your career because you can't sell on Amazon anymore. So you can pretty much be screwed. But as long as you're abiding by terms of service at the retailers you sell, you really won't have any legal problems per se. And as a final point, before I put more people to sleep, copyright lasts for your life plus 70 years in most countries. So that's a very long time. And one of the major cons of self-publishing, I've heard no one talk about this, but it is a con that a lot of people are going to have to deal with as they start dying, which is who takes over the rights to your book when you die? Who manages that? If you have a traditional publisher, they do it. You don't have to worry about it. But as a self-publisher, who's going to manage your books and manage your royalties and manage covers and all that stuff after you die? That can also be a major disadvantage for self-publishing, but not insurmountable. Ultimately, and this is Michael Aron's opinion only, it boils down to control. How much control do you want in the process? Do you want creative control over your story? Do you want control of where your book gets sold? Do you want control of what formats the book is in? Do you want control of the money? If the answer to that is yes, to all of those things is yes, then self-publishing may be a better route for you. If you don't want any of those things and you just want to write a book and you just want to have somebody else handle it, then traditional publishing may be a better route for you, but you have to understand that that comes with some major consequences and major disadvantages if you ever want control in your work. If you believe self-publishing is for you, I've put together a video outlining all of the costs of self-publishing. So how much is it going to cost you to get your cover, to get your book edited, all that stuff, everything you need to know about costs, and I've prepared a video just for you. So be sure to click that YouTube card above my head or link in the video description to watch the next video. Thanks for watching, take care, and see you next time.